We're here today to ceremonially sign into law Senate Bill 109, a piece of common sense legislation that promotes health and safety by banning the sale of electronic cigarettes to minors. There are many concerns with e-cigarettes. Most stem from the essentially unregulated markets in which they're made and sold. One concern is that outside the laboratory, it's impossible to tell which ones have nicotine and which ones don't. In fact, tests show many e-cigarettes touted as nicotine-free actually have nicotine. This poses enforcement challenges for retailers, schools, parents, and others. Senate Bill 109 forbids the sale of both nicotine and non-nicotine devices to minors. That makes it clear that youth have no business with e-cigarettes of any kind. A second concern is safety. Clinical studies have not been formally submitted to the FDA. Outside tests of e-cigarette emissions and the devices themselves have found numerous health-damaging chemicals, including formaldehyde, lead, chromium, and I won't be able to pronounce this one, diethylene glycol. But I do know what it is. It's an ingredient in antifreeze. Seriously. Furthermore, poison reports linked to the liquid contained in the e-cigarette cartridges increased 300% between 2012 and 2013 across the United States. In Kentucky, more than half of the calls to the Poison Control Center regarding e-cigarettes involve children. A third concern is more fundamental. Because they closely mimic tobacco-based cigarettes in form and function, e-cigarettes increase what's called renormalization of smoking among youth. In other words, they simply train our youth to smoke and make it seem okay. That is not what we want or what we need in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Kentucky already suffers from the highest rates of youth smoking in the country. Smoking-related diseases are killing our people. They're hurting school attendance and worker productivity, and they're substantially driving up healthcare costs. One of the goals of our new Kentucky Health Now initiative is to reduce our smoking rate by 10% by 2019. Banning the sale of e-cigarettes was one of the strategies included in that plan. I want to thank both Senator Paul Hornback and Representative Joni Jenkins for their work on this legislation and this issue, and the entire General Assembly for approving this bill. However, I do want to say that I and many others are disappointed that this session did not see the passage of separate legislation that would have further protected the public and employees by banning smoking in public places. We're going to continue to work on that issue until every person enjoys the freedom of clean air to breathe. Next, I want to ask Secretary of our Cabinet for Health and Family Services to come up and say a few words. Madam Secretary.
Thanks, Governor. Good afternoon. I'm really excited to be here today with the governor as he signs this important piece of legislation. You know, health experts agree that tobacco use is the single biggest factor negatively impacting the overall health of Kentuckians. Kentucky ranks 50th in the nation in smoking, with over 1/4 of adults, about 1/4 of youth, and about 1/4 of pregnant women reportedly using tobacco products. Our rate of youth smoking is the highest in the country. Studies indicate that most individuals who identify themselves as smokers begin using tobacco products before they turned 18. That's why this bill is so especially important today. It is a bill that has appropriate restrictions on youth access of both conventional tobacco products and e-cigarettes. Senate Bill 109 is a significant piece of legislation, a bipartisan piece of legislation on the use of electronic cigarettes and access to those products by minors. Before this legislation passed, any child or adolescent under the age of 18 could legally purchase an e-cigarette. That is no longer the case. I know many legislators have reported to me over the last several weeks that when they have gone home on the weekends, that young people have told them that in school that oftentimes e-cigarettes are brought out, and you cannot tell whether they contain nicotine or not. Enforcement without a piece that bans all e-cigarettes for those under 18, enforcement would frankly be a nightmare. The law really does address this. It also allows us to move a step closer, as the governor was saying, to meeting the Kentucky Health Now goals that was outlined just about a month or two ago. One of the 7 goals, as the governor was saying, is to reduce Kentucky's smoking rate by 10% in the next 5 years. And one of the strategies is, of course, to ban the sale of e-cigarettes. So as Secretary of the Cabinet for Health and Family Services, as everyone knows, we've been so successful this year in so many ways to sign up a lot of people to be able to access health care coverage in our state. But now we're taking another step to help people get healthier in our state. And so I am just really, really thrilled to be here for the governor to sign this very important piece of legislation today. Thank you.
Two people that have worked long and hard on this legislation, Representative Joni Jenkins, who couldn't be with us today, and Senator Paul Hornback. We thank both of them for their efforts. We thank both the health advocates and the tobacco companies for working with us on this legislation. Obviously, we can disagree on a number of things, but we can agree on the fact that folks under 18 years of age shouldn't have access to e-cigarettes. So, Senator Hornback.
You know what a monumental day it is to when you can get this group together that represents Health and Family Services, Secretary Haynes, the governor, the tobacco companies, and we've got several major interests in from the major tobacco companies here with us today, to come together for one thing, and that's what's good for our Commonwealth, and that's youth access to products that we don't think are good for our youth to have. You know, it's just great to have everybody here today to try or to get this legislation passed. And one thing, so people I want to thank, especially Representative Joni Jenkins, but the governor and the part that he played in this, because when we brought him a bill, it was passed by the House, it was passed by the Senate, going to the House in Senate Bill 109. And Governor, I want to thank you for the additions you made that made the bill better, because our bill, the way I had the bill drafted, covered nicotine more than anything else, not the non-nicotine products. But seeing the big picture, seeing that we need to cover all type of products like this, the governor put that language in there, which is accepted by everybody. And I want to say on behalf of the tobacco companies, everybody else, Governor and Secretary, and to Representative Jenkins, for your all's help on this. You know, it's not often, I've been in the tobacco industry for a long time, it's not often you get the tobacco industry to agree on anything. Even among themselves, they don't agree on anything. And to come together on this with the work that they did is just a great thing. You know, I think that this will move the state forward. It shows our youth, it shows our minors that we want to direct them down the right path. And I think that's what we need to do up here more, is make sure we get our youth started on the right path. And I'd just like to thank everybody for being here today, Governor, for having this ceremonial bill signing, because I do think that it's a major issue for the state of Kentucky, and I'd appreciate your help.
We have the Commissioner for Public Health, Dr. Mayfield, who joins us. We've got the Lieutenant Governor, Jerry Abramson, and Senator Dennis Parrott with us. I think it's time to sign this bill. Let's get, you want to have us up here first and then have tobacco people. We'll do two. How about that? Or we'll do this. Come on over. Don't want to lose the Lieutenant Governor.
No. I got it.
Here we go.
Come on in.
There we go. Good. Okay, let's have the other folks come on up. The
Murray.
folks and Murray.
Alex.
Got everybody? Come on. Balance us out. One more? We can just keep taking pictures. There we go. Good. There we go.
Thank you so much.
Very much. Yeah, Murray, how you doing? Thank you. Ceremony, okay? Dennis? Good job.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah. Good job. Good job. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, I don't think I can get away with it. Okay, we got a little time.
Governor, will you call a special session if the legislature adjourns this week without a road plan?
Well, first of all, I hopefully won't be faced with that decision. I know that they are working diligently to put together a road plan, and we have today and tomorrow to do that, and hopefully by tomorrow we will have us a road plan.
But the Senate President said today that it may leave just with continuation of the current road plan.
I don't think anyone will be satisfied with just a continuation of the current road plan. And so I'm going to be working with both House and House and Senate leaders to try to make sure that we have a new road plan by tomorrow.
Now that you've vetoed House Bill 407, there's talk that you're trying to get language to allow tolls on the Brent's fence in the road plan. Is there any truth to that?
I'm not working to get any language about tolls into the road plan.
Governor, what's your reaction to the Legislative Ethics Commission decision last week in the case involving John Arnold?
I was disappointed that they didn't have the numbers necessary to make a firm decision one way or the other. I know that in the executive branch, we have very high standards in terms of ethics, and we have had that since the beginning of my administration. As a matter of fact, I executed an executive order that placed standards on the executive branch that weren't even in the statutes. I do think that this whole episode certainly has raised the awareness of sexual harassment and those kinds of things in state government even more. And I think that you certainly will see that awareness reflected in the future in the legislative branch.
Do you think the commission should reopen the case or rehear the case as the three women are trying to look at?
You know, that's a process that's going on right now. It's a legal process, and I shouldn't interfere with that either with comments or in any other way, so I'm going to let the Ethics Commission handle that matter.
What's your response today, Governor, to the House passing an amendment that would have such ethics charges follow a member after they retire or resign?
Did they just pass something today?
This morning.
I'd heard that they were talking about that, but I haven't really seen the language, but it sounds obviously like a good idea.
Are there any efforts going on right now to try to restore funding for Waterfront Park? If so, what are they and where do they stand?
I was disappointed that the funding for Waterfront Park was left out of the budget. We have until tomorrow night when the legislature adjourns to make any changes. And if I have an opportunity to affect that in any way, I'm certainly going to try to.
It sounds like you're going to be meeting with legislative leaders on the Reparina financing. What is the status of that?
As I understand it, there will be a meeting this afternoon with some members of the Senate, and the city will be there, the university will be there. I also understand that there is a revised financing plan that has been developed that does not depend upon an increase in the bed tax. It does depend upon a slight increase in bonding capacity from the state as well as from the city. It continues to have the commitment of the university that is there in terms of an agreement in principle to have a 30-year lease of the facility. The thing that I want to try to convince legislators of is the fact that the Rupp Arena project is in the same normal process right now that the Yum Center project was when we appropriated $75 million of bonding for the Yum Center. It's in the same status as the International Convention Center project down in Louisville, where we've just appropriated $56 million in bond authorization. When the bonds for Yum were appropriated, there was no written agreement between U of L and Yum's at that time. There was an agreement in principle. And all of these moving parts are coming together like they normally do. The state would not issue the bonds for Yum Center unless and until all of those things were in concrete. The state won't issue any bonds for Rupp Arena until all of those things are in concrete. So it's a very normal process right now, and I'm going to try to convince the legislature that Rupp is in the same situation as all these other projects are or have been.
You said that the amount of state bonds is going to go up. Do you know to what level?
We're talking about bonding the state part of it at $80 million as opposed to $65 million. And the city is committed to go from $30 million to $40 million. And then the city is also going to do some value engineering, as they call it, to reduce the scope of the project slightly in order to continue to make it work.
Does the lack of a lease agreement with UK yet, how's that complicating?
UK and the city and the Lexington Civic Center have an agreement in principle, and it will be signed at some point down the road. And if it's never signed, the state will never issue the bonds. I can assure you of that. So the state's not going to be taking any risk when it comes to issuing bonds for Rupp Arena. When the legislature appropriated $75 million in bonding for the Yum Center, there was no written lease agreement between U of L and Yum Center at that time. There was an agreement in principle, and they subsequently worked the final details out and signed the lease agreement. So Rupp Arena is very much in the same position as Yum's was at that time. Actually, it's in a better position in that it is not relying at all on tax increment financing like Yum's did. And so the Rupp Arena project is a sound project, and assuming all the pieces come together, we'll have a great new Rupp Arena and Convention Center that will be a big economic boon to Central Kentucky. Okay, thanks.